Hey everyone, welcome to Reality TV News Update, the place where we bring you the latest updates, fun moments, and behind-the-scenes stories you won't want to miss. You can count on the things that mark the passage of time on Survivor. The very first tribal council, tribal swap, and double elimination occur early on. However, the possibility of merging is the one thing that hangs over the early game more than anything else. In case you are unfamiliar, about halfway through each season of Survivor, the remaining contestants unite into one massive tribe. Challenges generally shift from team-based to individual, and immunity also shifts, which slightly increases the tension. If the early parts of a Survivor season are about figuring out social dynamics and staying alive at all costs, the back half emphasizes the strategic aspects of the game. It's where moves are made and legends are born, and it's my personal favorite stretch. In its 6th episode, Season 50 of Survivor arrived at the merge with a monstrous 17 people. The majority of merges fall into the 10 to 13 range, for reference. This made it abundantly clear that there would be some heists, despite how tempting the idea of a tribal council of enormous size was. That ended up being true, and we'll get to that, but the point is that this was a merge in the most technical sense, which situates us roughly at the halfway point of Season 50. That seems as good a time as any to gather the Defector Survivor sickos, staff writers Louis Payez-Pumar, that's me, Kelsey McKinney, and Rochelle Hampton, as well as normal gossip producer Jay Towel Vieira, to check in on how the season is going, what we've loved and hated about it, and what we think will happen as we enter the very early stages of the Season 50 endgame. So, grab your torch and crack open a coconut. We're going in. How are you liking the season so far? Rochelle: I'm having a great time. The experience of watching this season of Survivor via appointment is always enjoyable. The most recent season that I watched came out in 2008, so this is my first introduction to the scheming children that seem to make up the majority of Survivor casts now. Watching the way they interact with the elder statesmen of the game is hilarious, and at times deeply poignant. I think it's that mix that keeps me coming back. Kelsey: I can't decide how I feel about this season. I think the actual gameplay and vote-outs have been good, and the cast is great. But there's something about how self-seriously Jeff is taking the whole season that I find really insufferable. Tell me who the fans picked. I also don't think this show, or really any reality television, is served well by having to fill a longer time slot. I would rather have a great, surprising hour of television than 1.5 hours with 30 minutes where I mostly look at my phone. Jay: It's a thrill to see so many skilled players gathered together. Everyone is well-seasoned, everyone is a threat. It's a joy to see this game played at a higher level. At the same time, it's deeply frustrating to see the ways in which the production and game design have sabotaged the players' ability to actually test their mettle. Whether I end up loving this season or hating it will have everything to do with whether Jeff, his twists, and his celebrity guests are capable of getting the fuck out of the way. Louis: After months of worrying that Season 50 was going to be a flop, the premiere really turned things around for me, and I got excited as hell. Sure, Kyle getting medvaxed ended the first 3-hour, I agree with Kelsey, that's too long, episode on a dour note, but Season 50 started with such joy and excitement in the way that most returnee seasons have, and I was pumped. It's been a slow downhill trend, though, since then, in many of the ways I expected heading into the season. The boot order has been atrocious, at least for me personally. What do you mean we lost Jenna, Savannah, Q, Mike White, Angelina, Colby, and Genevieve all before the merge? The twists have been even worse, though I will get to those a bit later. Jeff Probst doing an Applebee's ad, rapping, taking half an episode to deify Zach Brown. It's been a rough ride. I'm still broadly enjoying 50, though, because it's a returnee Survivor season, and it's hard to fuck that up completely. Even bad seasons like Caramoan and Game Changers had their did times because it was fun to see game legends come back to play. I only wish the producers of Survivor would allow Survivor players to play the game without so many levels of crap. In fact, let's get to that right now. What has been your favorite moment thus far? Least favorite? Louis: Let's talk about twists, and specifically, let's talk about the damn blood moon. On the most recent episode of Season 50, the 17 contestants came together on one beach for what looked like the merge, and yet turned out to be so much worse. Despite already being in 3 tribes heading into the episode, the group was merged into one tribe and then split back up into 3 tribes of 5. Ozzy and Rizzo were sent to exile due to finding an advantage, and so were marked safe from the blood moon. There was a challenge, one person from each group won immunity, and in what was supposed to be a sick twist voted on by the fans, 3 people were voted out in the same episode for the first time ever, one from each group. This stunk, and I think everyone involved realized it stunk right away. The problem with doing these split tribal councils with no warning or build-up is that the game defaults to pre-existing relationships. There's not enough time to build trust and voting blocks in one afternoon, so what else can you go on? I'll use Genevieve's dismissal as an illustration, because I thought it was the most unfair. I am a huge Genevieve fan, so I am biased here, but I also think I'm right. It's important to note how unfortunate she was prior to Wednesday's episode. Her top ally, Kyle, left the game due to injury. She found 2 idols, but thanks to Billie Eilish, couldn't use either. Her #1 rival, Aubrey, was sent one of those Billie Eilish Boomerang Idols team because of a relationship outside of the game. But we can ignore all that and still find plenty to be annoyed at in how she went out. As soon as she got split into a tribe with Aubrey, again, and her allies, Christian and Rick Devens, it was over for Genevieve. She needed to win immunity or go home, not because of a massive flaw in her game, but because she just drew the wrong color rock. She's been saying as much in her exit press, and she hinted at it in the tribal council. That sucks. There are, in my opinion, 2 ways to watch Survivor. As a reality show, it is undefeated. There are just too many ways for fun personalities to interact with each other, and even on the very worst seasons, some fun comes out of the dynamics. But as a competition, Survivor has turned into a glorified raffle for much of the game. If Genevieve draws a different color rock, say if she ends up on the Colby, Coach, Siri, Dee, Emily tribe, she probably doesn't go home. Same for Camilla, who landed on a tribe with someone she just betrayed, Jonathan, but without the protection of all the allies she betrayed him with. Colby was screwed more by his own body, as he injured his foot, and by his own admission knew that he was going to be evacuated sooner than later. I wish Survivor would stop introducing twists just because it can, and instead gave players back control of their fates, because some of my favorite Survivor moments, Parvati's double idol play in Heroes and Villains, and the David versus Goliath minority flip and Operation Italy result from player ingenuity rather than the twist that Jeff Probst has to explain for more than an hour before anyone can play the game. Anyway, my favorite moment has to be the R.I.Z. God Riz God baby winning over grumpy old man Colby Dalderson. No one can resist the Riz
Rizzo, and Ozzy make up Siri's triad, which is loaded with information, advantages, and the potential to swing votes in the larger showdown between old school and new age that appears to be developing. Ozzy won't be able to weather the social heat, but I could see either Siri or Rizzo closing the deal. Joe, Jonathan, Chrissy, Coach, and Stephanie are just a few of the people who have no chance of actually winning because of their stubbornness or lack of experience. Man, I hope I'm not wrong about that. I sound a little bit like Spencer, even to myself. Siri will be the one who allows her to get close to the final 3. As things stand, I thought that the way the production focused on Aubrey looking really remorseful after Genevieve gave her her blazer felt like a winner's cut, but who knows? I will be so mad if Aubrey wins. I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here. Dee Valladares, welcome to the 2-time winner club. I don't know if I actually believe that Dee has the best chance to win from here on out. Honestly, I'd give that to Rizzo if I had to right now. He's doing some incredible social work. But I am so impressed with Dee that I have to give this one to her. She came into 50 not only as a winner, but as a winner with a massive reputation. If there is anything close to a consensus about best new era player, it is Dee. Yet not only did she successfully merge, but she also did so in comfort. She has never been targeted by a vote, and in fact controlled the vote that sent Colby home. She has alliances with the women of her original tribe, as well as connections to the Rizzo-Ozzy-Siri trio. It is hilarious, though, that Dee said her best friend told her to get Siri out immediately, and now they're working together. Dee's great at challenges. She's incredibly charming, and she's positioned well. She might still lose, either by vote out or in final tribal, because no one ever wants to give someone a second win. Tony Vlachos only won twice because someone had to win a second time in Winners at War, so the only person to truly win a second time is Sandra Diaz-Twine. The queen stays queen. However, I'm going to go ahead and assume that Dee will join that group as the third person. The tide had just begun to pull away from shore, dragging thin ribbons of foam across the sand like unfinished thoughts. Somewhere beyond the mangroves, a challenge horn echoed, long, low, and haunting, but for once no one rushed. Midseason had arrived, and with it, something rarer than immunity: reflection. On day 16 of Survivor 50, the competition had broken up in unexpected ways. Not only were alliances changing, but they were also breaking up. And at the center of it all was a single player who was now referred to by a single name, the Defector, which was spoken over campfires and confessionals alike. The mid-season questionnaire of today was not official. There were no parchment, torches, or producers, just a battered journal that was secretly passed between castaways after it was discovered in a supply crate. The same questions were answered by each player. However, the game's second half would be defined by the Defector's sharp, unapologetic, and extremely revealing responses. 1. Who are you currently devoted to? Before writing, the Defector spent some time staring at the page. No one. The point is that loyalty in this game had become currency, and like all currency, it could be spent, traded, or hoarded. The Defector had joined a close group of 4 people early on. They had a lot of numbers, a plan, and trust, or at least the illusion of it. But trust broke the moment whispers began, plans forming behind them, votes shifting behind their back. So they switched sides, not quietly, not subtly, a full-blown defection at Tribal Council that blindsided their closest allies and shattered the game wide open. Now, loyalty wasn't to people, it was to positioning. 2. Which has been your most significant move thus far? Obvious, right? They wrote. It wasn't just flipping, it was flipping at the exact moment they thought I was safest. The move was devastating, not because of betrayal, but because of timing. When they were at the bottom, the Defector did not leave the ship. They jumped when they were at the top, when no one expected it. The outcome? Chaos. Lines blurred, and suddenly everyone was scrambling. 3. Biggest regret? For the first time, there was hesitation, not managing the fallout better. The move had been successful strategically, but it had been costly socially. The climate in the camp had changed. When they got close, everyone stopped talking. A little longer, eyes lingered. In a game where perception is everything, being seen as unpredictable can be both a weapon and a weakness. 4. Who is playing the best game besides you? They smirked slightly before writing, Rena. She listens more than she talks, allowing others to underestimate her. That poses a threat. Rena had managed to stay out of the spotlight while subtly influencing decisions. She wasn't making flashy moves, but she didn't need to. Not yet. 5. Who can't win? Anyone who still thinks loyalty alone will carry them. It was a brutal answer, but not an inaccurate one. Survivor 50 wasn't shaping up to be a season where bonds alone determined the outcome. It was a season of evolution, where adaptability mattered more than consistency. 6. What's your strategy moving forward? The defector paused, listening to the distant crash of waves. Keep moving, keep options open, and never be the obvious target. It was a delicate balance. Too quiet, and they'd lose control. Too aggressive, and they'd become the next blindside. But if they could maintain that middle ground, unpredictable yet necessary, they might just make it to the end. 7. What is it that viewers are missing? This answer came quickly. How exhausting it is to constantly think 3 steps ahead. Every conversation, every look, every silence, it all means something. The game wasn't just physical. Mental it was. Emotional. Relentless. The pressure was even greater for someone who had just made the biggest move of the season. 8. Who do you least trust? Marcus. The name was highlighted. When things go wrong, he smiles too much. That tells me he's always got a backup plan, and I'm probably in it. Marcus had been one of the primary beneficiaries of the defector's flip. On the other hand, in this game, an ally from yesterday might end up being the target of tomorrow. 9. What is your pitch if you make it to the final tribal council? They leaned back, looking out at the horizon. I altered the gameplay. I took a chance when everyone else was playing it safe, and it did work. It was bold, confident, maybe even a little arrogant. But in Survivor, juries often reward players who take control of their fate. 10. Why do you deserve to win? The final question lingered. For a moment, the bravado faded, replaced by something quieter. Because I wasn't afraid to lose. After they wrote that, the journal was closed. That night, as the sun dipped below the ocean and the sky turned a deep burning orange, the game continued. Conversations resumed, alliances changed once more. Somewhere, another plan was already forming. But one thing was certain, the defector had changed everything. Whether that change would lead them to victory or make them the next casualty remained to be seen. In a season defined by unpredictability, one player had embraced the chaos. Now, everyone else had to decide whether to flip, fight, or follow.